everyone, welcome back. How are you? Hope this podcast finds you in a good mood. I'm Luana and she's Marilin in case you don't know us. Today's topic is learning disabilities as we saw many of you requested in the comments. We're going to talk about our experiences with students we taught in the past, give some information about learning disabilities, and finally, we'll mention a couple of tips we learned along the way that might be helpful for other teachers. I'm sure you have heard about learning disabilities, more nowadays with the people who have a learning disability and want to raise awareness about it. That's why it is a common topic on social media, especially on TikTok, where people say which are the most common symptoms of learning disabilities in general, in case someone is wondering if they have one of them. In case you don't know much about the topic, we are going to explain it a little bit.
A learning disability is when someone has a hard time with everyday activities, like chores, socializing, or managing money. This difficulty can last a person's entire life. People with a learning disability might need extra help to learn new things, understand complex information, and connect with others. It is very important to remember that LDs are not a sign of low intelligence. They are, in fact, in no way a reflection of intelligence level, and many people with LDs possess above average intellectual capabilities. Identification is key to managing LDs as best as possible in classrooms and giving students the most appropriate support in their learning. Added vigilance for these signs is needed in developing countries in particular, since students are far less likely to have been identified as having LDs than in many Western countries where the system and procedures of diagnosis are more rigorous.
Well, in my case, I had to teach a girl who is dyslexic. I was completely lost because I've never had to teach someone with a learning disability. I also felt quite nervous because it was my first time teaching English to someone too. So it was even more difficult for me, trying to get my nerves under control and at the same time focusing on giving the best of myself. My first thought was to look for information on the internet about this learning disorder, dyslexia, and it did help a little, but I still didn't have much idea about it, so I decided to ask my student because I didn't want to teach her in a way that she wouldn't understand. I asked her if she could tell me if there were some special activities that her teachers used in her learning. She told me her teacher gave her some activities just for herself. For example, underline or circle the correct option, match activities, spelling activities. Plus, I always had to write in capital letters in order for her to understand better. So I focused on those activities to teach her. Nevertheless, I tried to incorporate difficulty on them as she was improving to encourage her. There were days when this went great and some days were more difficult for her.
I will share a touching experience from my time as an educator this year. I had the privilege of teaching a student who happened to be colorblind. This condition, known as color vision deficiency (CVD), affects around 1 in 12 men and 1 in 2,000 women. Color blindness can stem from various causes, with genetics being the most common. It can also result from certain medical conditions like diabetes and multiple sclerosis, the natural aging process, or even specific medications. Color blindness isn't a one-size-fits-all condition. Different individuals experience it in various ways, but the most prevalent form is red-green color blindness, which encompasses different types and severities. Contrary to what some might believe, it's not just about struggling with red and green. It can extend to confusing colors that contain red or green components, such as blue and purple. This condition impacts the perception of a wide range of colors, including reds, greens, oranges, browns, purples, pinks, grays, and even black. Interestingly, many individuals with color blindness tend to underestimate its impact, often thinking their condition is mild. During this particular year, I had a 9-year-old student who shared with me that he had color blindness, primarily affecting his perception of blue and green. This became relevant because we were learning colors in English, and he wanted me to be aware in case he made a mistake due to his condition. At first, I wasn't sure how to react. I asked him if he needed extra assistance, but he assured me that he could handle it independently, so I didn't want to make him feel uncomfortable. Some of his classmates would frequently ask him about the colors he saw, and I privately inquired if this was bothersome. To my surprise, he was grateful for his classmates' efforts to understand his perspective and was proud of being different. This experience was a powerful reminder that our differences can be sources of strength and connection, fostering empathy and understanding among individuals even in the most unexpected of places.
Although those disabilities are the ones that we have to work on, there are several types of different ones and we, as future teachers, need to be aware of all of them. For example, the most common ones are ADHD, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and dyspraxia. Also, we have to pay attention to the symptoms of these in order to help parents or the learners to discover the cause of their difficulties as a way to move on their learning journey.
One prevalent learning disability we encounter today is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, commonly known as ADHD. This disorder is characterized by challenging in maintaining focus, paying attention, and managing one's behavior, often accompanied by hyperactivity. Research suggests that 30 to 50% of children with ADHD also have specific learning disability, making learning challenging for them. In a typical classroom, at least one student is likely to have ADHD.
In our research, we learned that although ADHD is not considered a learning disability, it can qualify as a disability under IDEA, that is, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, allowing students to receive special education services. Its key characteristics include inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. ADHD can go hand in hand with other disorders, such as Tourette syndrome, oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder.
For students with ADHD, as well as their parents and educators, there are several strategies that can help. Structured routines. Establishing consistent daily routines can provide a sense of predictability and help students stay organized. Organizational tools. Encourage the use of planners, calendars, and digital tools to help students manage assignments and deadlines. Break tasks into small steps. Breaking down assignments into smaller manageable tasks can make them less overwhelming. Regular breaks. Students with ADHD may benefit from short breaks during studying to maintain focus and reduce restlessness.
Now, we're going to mention a few tips that might be helpful for our colleagues. First, it is important to develop trust and rapport from the start. Wait until you and your students are comfortable with each other before you try to informally assess their difficulties and find redeeming strategies. Learning disabilities are not constant or consistent. Therefore, you will need to be able to constantly watch, adapt, revise, assess, and ask questions. What might work one day is not guaranteed to be the best approach the next.
Give your learner constant feedback and opportunity to employ the strategies you taught in your classes. Often, you cannot use the same strategies you used to teach yourself something. Rather, an explanation that seemed very clear to you may seem incomprehensible to your students. Your sense of internal logic may simply not work with the way they think, and so your explanation won't be helpful, only frustrating. For instance, telling is usually the worst learning tool a teacher can use. Instead of relying on one kind of explanation, you will need to be flexible and adapt, and have available several different ways of explaining a strategy. We need to acquire an understanding of various strategies available, decide which might be the best for this student and this activity, break down learning process into bite-sized chunks, decide which are the most important steps, decide which order they should be in, be able to explain the relation of each step, be able to explain the purpose of the strategy.
You can also use visual aids such as charts, diagrams, and graphic organizers to assist students better in processing information and understanding concepts. Encourage a growth mindset where students believe that they can improve through effort and perseverance can be helpful too. Emphasize the value of mistakes as opportunities for learning in processing information and understanding concepts. And lastly, but not less important, continue to educate yourself about LDS and best practices for teaching students with LDS. Attend workshops, seminars, and conferences to stay updated on the latest research and strategies.
In today's podcast, we explore the world of learning disabilities and their impact on students. We shared our experiences working with students who have various learning disabilities and the valuable lessons we have learned along the way. Learning disabilities are not a reflection of a person's intelligence. They are unique challenges that require understanding, patience, and individualized support. As educators, it's our responsibility to create an inclusive learning environment where all students, regardless of their abilities, can thrive.
Remember, every student is unique, and with the right support, they can overcome challenges and excel in their educational journey. Thank you for joining us on this podcast. We hope you found the information and experiences we shared helpful. See you in the next one.